Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum to Bitcoin, so give us an idea of what's going on with altcoins in general. We'll marvel for a little bit at FET because we've been in that trade for a while, and I suppose it keeps going from strength to strength. So a bit of an overview on that, and try and forecast what's reasonably likely or most likely to take place next week, and things to look out for. So, and also I'm using the Binance app. I've never used this before. I didn't even know it existed. Someone told me on the live stream that I should use it because my browser was getting a bit messed up and I couldn't fix it. So yeah, I've downloaded it, and I like it. I do like it. I don't like the way that I'm logged in all the time, but I do like it. It is pretty good. So maybe you should try it. You probably already are. I seem to be like the last person to know about it. Anyway, let's have a look at Bitcoin. So first of all, a continuation of this trend. And this is what I was saying on the last video. Look, we've had these 30% dips. That's annoying. So I'm just getting used to this, by the way. Just getting used to this app. So this is how we dipped last time. We took 14 days to do a 30% retracement, double bottomed at 19 days, and then basically rallied from there. That was a 13% retracement from top to bottom. Took 19 days. This was a top to bottom over the period of 7 days at 27%, so less than this one, less time, less dip, and this one is to the tune of 19% over the last 12 days. So it took a little longer, but this could perhaps maybe even be the dip over with. Now what we're looking at here is a clear bounce from, I suppose, the 50 exponential moving average here, bouncing up, and now we're reclaiming all major moving averages apart from the center of the Bollinger Band, which is going to be the last battleground. Breaking above there is going to offer us the opportunity to actually do a full-on reversal. Now I said on the last video that I would be looking to take profits around these areas just in case we do pull back, and I have done that. I've taken, I don't take all profits, but I do scale out what I could consider to be resistance zones, and we're pretty much at the last one here. Now if we break above here, no big deal. We wait for continuation of the trend to carry on. Now one thing I'd like to show you here is the conversion baseline cross. Now because I've not set these up very as bold as I had before, we have this little skinny blue line, we have this red line here. If these two were to cross, it would say that this trend, which began over here, has ended, but it's not done that yet. Also, if this touched the price action, it would also say that this has ended, and it's not ended yet. So so far this signal here is still in play, so we still technically are in an uptrend until the trend has come to an end. Even when it does come to an end, it's not the end of the world. We had an end of trend take place over here, that was an end of trend, and then a beginning of a trend start here. Using this indicator, we had an end of a trend here and a beginning of a trend here, so it's becoming less and less relevant, really. And the best way to look at it, I suppose, would be on the weekly, which is far from over. So the weekly kind of shows the strength of this entire asset, basically, Bitcoin that would be. And I suppose when you zoom out and look at it like that, I mean, it's not worrying, because when we look at this, nothing potentially is overextended. We do have bearish divergence on the weekly there. We do have money flow index trickling out since this top over here in January, where alt season began. So that's not really a big deal for me, because we see that alts have been rising with Bitcoin. They had a significant pump around this zone, and they still have been rising as Bitcoin's been climbing up. So the money flow index coming down, snaking down slowly like this, isn't such a big deal. Really, it's not such a big deal for me. I don't mind it. I mean, the MACD is pretty high. Let's face it, it's the highest it's ever been. It's really high. So there would be reason to not call a top, but expect a top at some point soon, given the bearish divergence and given that MACD being so incredibly high. It's bullish until it's not. But for the moment, on the daily, at least, it's not particularly bearish either. We do have bearish divergence again on the daily. So what I'm saying is that I am being especially cautious, and that's my style. I am a cautious trader. I'm not in any way a moon boy, but yeah, I think that breaking above here at some point next week would likely cause continuation to a new all-time high. And then if we do get a new all-time high, and then we basically go into or towards 70,000 or so, I think at that point I would start to get pretty concerned, and I would maybe take some profit and back off for a little bit, because on the live stream what we do is we look at lots of different altcoins and their potential setups, and on the weekly is always my preference, to see when things are going. On the dailies, at the moment there's no particularly strong signals for anything. They can go up, and they are still going up. Lots of these altcoins are still going up, continue with their trend. But what it also says, when I look at these, generally speaking, is that there seems to be an area between May and August which would allow for essentially a really large pivotal moment for altcoins, similar to what I was looking at back in November, when I was saying that there's an alt season kind of scheduled for around mid-January. So there's no crystal ball, but there are certain telltale signs that you can look at on these charts. Anyway, that's just something I've observed. And so if we do reach a top or a peak, and we do consolidate to a large extent, it would be on the next high, I would imagine. Whether that be if we got front run, which is always a possibility, so moving up towards 60,000 and not quite getting there, the chart doesn't favour that kind of move. It does still look pretty good for a continuation of this move up to a new all-time high. But there will be a point, in my opinion, at this point, given the bearish divergence on the daily, the 3 daily, and the weekly, that there will be a significant pullback to reset those oscillators, to break that down basically, and I might be looking to take profits on the next potential Bitcoin high, and that would correspond to pretty much all my positions generally, because if there is a bigger retracement than the ones we've seen, because again these have got smaller each time, 30%, 27%, 18%, that doesn't correspond really with the way that the bearish divergence is playing out. If we do get a big drop to do with this bearish divergence, it should be a lot bigger than that. But at the moment we've not got any of that. So that's just an overview of Bitcoin. So I am still obviously technically bullish. I am more bullish breaking above here, and there would be a point where I would start to consider taking more profits. And if things keep going up, they keep going up. I have to play warning signals as well as I do setups, and when things get overextended, that I have to treat it as that. I've made a decent penny over the last 12 months, and there's nothing wrong with sitting back and waiting for the next potential setups. We see setups on this channel, and when they're clear, they are clear, and when they're unclear, obviously, they're not clear. So let's have a look at Ethereum. Ethereum basically copying Bitcoin, but not with the same amount of conviction. A weaker chart overall, have to say, but it will basically follow Bitcoin. And if it starts to, and if it does reclaim these areas, then it will work out much better. Now, if we have a look at the way that Bitcoin has got higher highs each time, Ethereum doesn't. It's got its high here and a lower high here, but we also have higher lows. So you could perhaps maybe even draw a half-baked wedge formation in this, and this could be something that we could think is going on. We might think that this is taking place. Now, when people draw these out and look at these, they often think that this is how it's going to play, and we're going to reach all the way to the apex and then go woo. But I have to say that the longer it takes for this to play out, the weaker the potential move is at the end. So if we did start to bounce from here and bounce from here, but bounce from here, and then break out on this next attempt, it would be more aggressive. And the way that we generally would do a measure move, this is all pretty easy. From the mouth of a wedge like this, you'd take a measure move, and wherever the breakout is, let's just say it broke out, tomorrow or the next day, that gives us a target of $2,500 if it did it the other day, soon. If it broke out at the very end of the apex, it's still not much different really, 2,450. But again, if we broke down, these are the measure moves to the down, which actually look a lot worse. They look terrible. That would bring us down to below, well, basically $1,000. This is the formation. I'm not saying it's going to go one way or another, but if we break out from this, then that's the measured move that we'd be looking for, to around about $2,500. If we broke down from this and the market broke down, we'd be looking for a $1,000 Ethereum. So it is what it is. Like I say, I don't have a particular preference, but the chart does kind of look relatively weak weak in comparison to Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean that it can't spring back to life. If we have a look at the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart itself, and this is something I should have planned beforehand. So normally I have all this all set up. It's just that my I'm using this browser for the very first time. So we have a trend line form over here, support trend line, basically, more or less. Give or take, this is the kind of deal, and we've been respecting it for about 14 months. There's been a few weeks here where we didn't, and also we're not right now. In fact, it looks like we've been rejected from it. So again, emphasizing the weakness of Ethereum in the short term, but breaking out of a formation like this to the up would fix that. We would at that point then have another rally versus Bitcoin, but for the moment, it's a matter of hoping that we do bounce from here, because if it doesn't bounce from here, and we'll give it a few weeks, because we did spend a few weeks below it, and obviously a few weeks down here below it, so it's not the end of the world. But if it does fail to break out of here, and this becomes a failed support trend line, then that would be unfortunate, and Ethereum's strength versus Bitcoin is kind of in question. But for the moment, I'm not going to question it. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. This is a long trend line. It's a very crude way and oversimplified way of measuring that strength, which is still good. I mean, we do technically have higher highs, higher lows. Whether or not we're respecting this basic, simple trend line is just a very brief guide. We don't have to bounce on it exactly. If you just imagine this as an area that snakes up, showing that there is an uptrend of support and higher highs and higher lows, rather than getting beaten up if you are trying to buy it directly on the trend line. But it is, like I say, it has been relevant for the vast majority of this 14 to 15 month period. And now we will go back over to the web browser here, and this is one of the things that we have to be not concerned over, but mindful of, and this is the Dixie chart, the dollar index. So the stronger the Dixie gets, the weaker the cryptocurrency technically can be, and this is a bullish chart. We've got a conversion baseline cross, we've got divergences now on the 50 exponential. This is a daily chart, by the way. And we've reclaimed the 200 exponential, which is usually a bullish sign. You can see how we broke above it, and then the following day kind of tested it. So this leads me to believe that this will be a continuation of trend. Now, this won't be without dips. There can easily be dips on this, and any dip in this will be felt quite nicely with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin. A decreasing Dixie is usually an increasing everything. Stocks, commodities, and cryptos. So, but we can't deny the fact that this is a signal here. This is a long signal here. These are diverging. The cloud is green. We're above. We broke into this resistance zone. So the first layer of resistance here, which proved to be pretty strong here, here, and here. Also, we tested it as support here, and now we've moved up to it. So it would suggest that this zone here, 93.35. Would be the next level of resistance. So maybe we push up to that on Monday, have a bit of a red Monday, maybe a red Tuesday, but we would really be waiting for the rejection on here and hoping for the rejection. If not here, then a little bit higher, which could end up being around these zones, 94.5 to maybe just 94.14. At the end of the day, it's a bullish chart, and this also goes into the kind of vibe that I was getting, that I was explaining about altcoins, leading me to believe that there would be a bit more freedom when it comes to around between May to August. Now, I know that that's a very long period of time, but if we're thinking of the dollar index in an uptrend, if we imagine this uptrend lasting, because it could last, it's begun already and it's been confirmed. So this dollar could increase in value at least for a month, maybe 3 months, until it reaches its peak and then starts to decrease. That would also coincide with the way that a lot of these altcoins charts are set up. Many of them are set up that way to say that, yes, I'm ready to go from between May and August, I will have the power to move. Some will move early as May, some will move as late as August. That's what their charts say, and that is also roughly the time frame I would expect for this trend to come to an end if it carries on in this trajectory. There's only so far the dollar index can go, given the amount of problems that the dollar is facing. And if we imagine that maybe maybe their super resistance would be up here around about 95, roughly 95, because we've had a few pieces of price action around 95, roughly rejection here, roughly supports here, here, and here. So maybe that would be the absolute top for the dollar. It may be, it may not be. So one thing we could do is we could draw in a pitchfork and see how long would that take for us to get into this zone. You know, if we continued with this movement within this pitchfork, we could get there as early as May 13th, or we could get there as late as July the 27th, leading us into August. So, you know, this being the rough trajectory, and again, this isn't the exact science, but this could be could be quite easily the direction all the way up to the top layer, which is 95 on the Dixie there. So it's definitely something to think about. So if we didn't want to be greedy, we would think about taking profits. I mean, I certainly am thinking of that, and already have, and will continue to do that. Given what I'm seeing on the long term, well, it's not even long term really. It's a few months. It's a few months of perhaps maybe going into hibernation and re-strategizing. And if it continues to pump and I was wrong, that's no problem. I don't mind missing out on trades. I hate losing out on trades, and I would hate to see a lot of my gains just get wrecked. So this is also something we want to get familiar with as well. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart, and the dominance is actually bearish. So this is showing bearish. It's bearish all over. We've got our death cross there. We've also got conversion baseline cross below the cloud. So that's bearish. That is a bearish. That's a shorting signal. If this was an asset, you would short it here. You would definitely short it here. Which makes it a bit more complicated, because normally we would think about this as in the form of strength. We're thinking, yes, altcoins will rally against Bitcoin. They have to, because we've got these signals. But again, the bigger picture is going to be made clear on the Dixie. If this bounces and goes up, or breaks down and goes down, it doesn't necessarily mean that alts will be making money versus Bitcoin. It could mean that everything's coming down and alts are stronger. That's usually that is pretty hard to believe, to be honest. That's not usually how it works, but again, you know, we have to think about it. So there is a bullish setup here in the form of altcoins rallying against Bitcoin immediately. So like I say, taking some profits is always wise. Not taking all or being all in. This is my plan. As you can see, there's a bigger picture here, which offers the stronger move, which would be the inevitable breakdown of the Dixie from roughly up to perhaps maybe 95, leading us into between as early as May to as late as August, which coincides with a lot of the strength that altcoins are showing me on the long-term charts. That would be my preferable move, because that would offer, you know, as we've seen from January, you know, we've traded a lot, and we'll have a look at FET in a minute. We've done a handful of coins now on this channel that have done 10x's over the last couple of months. Those are the type of moves that I really like to do. I like to get in at the bottom. Obviously, it's nice trading a trend and you make immediate returns, but buying the bottom and doing a 10, you know, 11, 12, 13x, maybe even more. I kind of lose count on some of these things like Holochain and Seller, Harmony One, Fayne AI. You know, they are 10x tokens, 15x tokens, and they're the ones that I like. You know, they're my favourite, obviously. So at the moment, there's not many of those opportunities becoming very clear. Although the Bitcoin dominance is teasing us, and it has been teasing us now for about a month for a further continuation of the uptrend for altcoins, and that could happen. It could happen, but you know, the dollar index is the thing that concerns me the most. And if we're going to get a continued alt season, if we're going to have an actual season like the one that we're technically already in, but started around mid to late January, we want to see something a bit more structured on the long term. And at the moment, this is a trend reversal on the Dixie, which would transpire into weakness, or at least a lack of strength, or pressure, I suppose, on crypto as a whole. So that is that overview for you. So let's just have one last little look at Fayne AI. So this is one of the 10x tokens. So you know, on my Patreon, I teach a few different types of basic trading strategies, and I use this one as an example, saying that there's a perfect entry point down here. We have ourselves a golden cross and a Ichimoku cloud conversion baseline cross. We got one of these down here. We can get in on this trade, and we will trade it until the bitter end. And the bitter end would be when this touches the price action, or the opposite cross takes place on the conversion baseline. But at the moment, we've not got any of that. So, you know, it's been a rocky and, especially recently, relatively scary situation to play out. And But you know, if you're going to judge it, you know, by the entry point and get out at the exit point, you know, it's not telling us to get out yet. And if we zoom out a little further, we do just see nothing particularly overextended here at all. There's no real warning signals on this. Not really. If we have a look at the RSI, there could be considered to be a bearish divergence in play, but it's not really very strong at all. Not yet anyway. And if we were to think about this in the form of a trend, then we still got plenty of room to move up before our next level of rejection. And I'm not considering selling you know, this based on that. I've got to put my money where my mouth is and get out of the trade when the trade tells me to get out, technically using the conversion baseline, just like it did on the previous one. So I like the way it's looking on the daily, particularly. On the weekly, it's looking a little overextended, I have to say, but it's still continuing to pump. We are getting a bit overextended here on the money flow index, but historically, you know, crypto likes to and can quite easily go above 95. So we're yet to close the week. The week will close tonight. Don't know where the week will be when it does close. If we have a look at the RSI here on the weekly, there's no bearish divergence there. That's fine. So, you know, this does look like it wants to continue to push, which obviously is exciting. And I know that there's a mainnet around the corner. Not that I trade anything on the back of these sort of things. Usually, if something like that happens, it's like a pump and dump. So I am a little skeptical about when that mainnet arrives, because what does a mainnet mean really? Not much to me, I'm afraid. It doesn't mean much to me. I got in on this trade on the back of a technical signal, so there was no mainnet anything down here. It was a technical signal, and I'm going to treat it as such. But since there is this mainnet, you know, due to be released, I would imagine that there probably will be a pump and then likely a dump afterwards, because there's a whole group of people that like to trade those types of things, and that kind of often will break the formation of the chart, break the natural rhythm of the chart. And that's one of the reasons I think this chart has survived so well. I was talking to someone briefly on my Telegram chat, and they're saying, you know, FET doesn't have any good promotion, you know, their marketing's terrible, and then it kind of made me think that maybe that's the reason why this chart was able to develop in such a nice and natural way, that it's been completely devoid of these pump tweets and loads of people shilling it. Really, it's just been allowed to grow, and it's worked out really well. And this is the reason I used to like trading cryptocurrency above all other assets, is because there was, you know, a lot of the time charts were, you know, completely separated from any political or that kind of influence. You know what I mean? If you trade oil and gold and stuff, or forex especially, then all that needs to happen is somebody say something and it goes up or goes down, and so you could have a great setup, and then some bloke with a lot of power will say something silly or say something positive, and it will go up or down, and kind of, you know, the trade is less relevant at that point. So I am a little more cautious about this release of the mainnet, not because I believe in these sort of things. I mean, you know, it's because it will attract a lot of new people to the coin, which might pump it and then, you know, essentially break it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there, but thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Subscribe to the channel, like it if you want, and have a nice day. Take it easy.